All right, you glorious grasshoppers. It is Monday at 11:30. Well, not quite 11:30 yet, but that's our time slot. And yes, the great Mark Puttenvink, super trainer, has now put on a shirt again, showing off the tan and the muscles. Well, you're 65 years old, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Good job. You're in shape. So Mark has Patriot Training Systems is his company. He trains everybody, anything from police officers, Navy SEALs, housewives, hockey players, football players, trains them all. He and I have a lot, we believe in a lot of the same stuff, the intermittent fasting and healthy eating and diet and just living life all out. Great man. Because of Mark, I've gotten involved with a lot of the Navy SEALs and stuff. So how was your weekend, bud? Just sitting out tanning all weekend or what?
No, actually, Saturday morning, I did a seminar for like 20 women on, I don't call it self-defense, I call it survival skills.
Huh.
Did that. And then the rest of the day just kind of run around. Then yesterday, Beth had a woman she worked with who took a job in LA with Sony.
Just sort of after Mark, just so much clear. When Mark mentions Beth, this is a saint of a woman. She'll probably be granted sainthood
already in
for living with Mark all this time. So you go ahead and complete that story just to make sure everybody knows.
Yeah, she's already in. So anyway, so this woman moved to LA, just 3 children. And the middle child, Marshall, is like 7. And as soon as they landed in LA, the COVID hit. So he kind of acted out because he equated the COVID restrictions with moving from home across the country.
I never thought that.
Yeah, so he was acting out, and Beth was telling me, and I said, "Listen, you know what? Probably help the young child is if he took up boxing. Sure." She said, "How are you gonna do that?" I said, "Well, we'll FaceTime." So I've been FaceTiming him now once a week. Well, I want to move it up to twice a week, probably over a year now, and. To my surprise and to my happiness, he's really getting good. He's got a heavy bag in the backyard, and he's put his combinations together, and he's got a new set of gloves, and he's got a big smile on his face. Yeah. And so it worked out well. So that was Sunday. Yeah, and
that's pretty cool.
Then yesterday,
it's amazing how sports can do that for kids, right? How they accomplish something.
And I think it's true for adults too. The best remedy for any kind of depression or anxiety is go out, go for a run, or go get a heavy bag. Or lift some weights or whatever, move around. Absolutely. It's cheap.
Speaking of boxing, I bet you saw this video. It must have been 5 years ago. And I think it was just a random video. I believe it was a father. He was outside in front of the garage in the driveway teaching his son how to box. And, he wasn't yelling at his son, but you can tell he was really wanted to teach him the skills, do this, turn your hips, all that kind of way. And the boy, probably 8 or 9 years old, started crying because he wasn't getting it right. And the father was fantastic. This video was like a tearjerker. How he explained to the boy, listen, it's just that you haven't done it yet. I'm teaching you so you can learn to do it right. It's not like you're doing something wrong, but that's how you learn, by you making mistakes. This great speech he gave him, it was a tearjerker. And the boy you could tell was really listening, stopped crying, started doing it. And now the video, all of a sudden now his mindset had changed too. And now he was picking up the things the father was trying to teach him. And the smile came on his face because the thing he couldn't do before, he was now accomplishing. It was a fantastic video. I've got to find it someplace, but it was pretty cool. It was just like, it wasn't planned. I don't think the father just happened to be videoing his son. So.
Well, it's amazing how a lot of this correlates to, one of the books I read and I reread, and I'll probably read it again, is called Sharpening the Warrior's Edge. And it's actually more focused for the teacher, not the student, how we teach skill sets in this book, particularly combat survival skills. But so you break it down. So if there's one thing I want to show you, one either attribute, technique, principle, whatever it is, I'll break it down into 3 parts. Obviously, the beginning, the middle, and the end. If I try to show you the whole thing at once, it's not going to work. So you take the first third of it, you teach that. And then when you see that they've concluded, they can perform that, then you move to the middle and the end. And when it's completed, there's such, I don't care if it's a kid or an adult, there's such a sense of accomplishment that you were able to do that. And it keeps, in many ways, it keeps the hook in you to come back and train again and learn again, whether it's boxing or hockey. Anything. So it's
that is the great thing about coaching, right? You can have such an influence with kids by taking something that they can't do, teaching them over and over, and then all of a sudden they can do it, and they're going, "Wow, man, I couldn't do that last month. Now I can do it." So and you and I have touched upon this many times. What a great joy it is to run into an adult now who's got his own children, his or her children, and say, "Hey, Mark," and then you go.
geez, I'm sorry, I don't remember you. Well, you coached me, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is.
You made an impact, whether it was huge or little. You made an impact.
Barry Shelley, there, bud. How you doing?
Yeah,
Mr.
hey,
Cooperstown. You ever cut yourself?
So there's trainer blades that we use that they don't have an edge. I do train with a live blade. No, I haven't. Particularly careful about that because it's, you could really damage yourself. But we do have trainers, and the only time I train with a live blade is it's rare that I do, but it's when I'm performing something I'm very adept at and been doing for quite thousands of evolutions.
Yeah. So when you do all that stuff, it's like you're training your muscles, like it's like the muscle memory, right? That you're training those with those moves.
Yeah. So the way the Filipinos teach is you learn a platform, so an angle 1, an angle 2, an angle 3, and then an angle 4, let's say, and you do that repetitively. But again, you're not. If you were ever to get into a knife fight, you wouldn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, but you have attributes. If you avoid being struck and you slide off to the side, well, that's an angle 2. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it does. Yeah, it does. So you've got the moves. You don't necessarily have to go in that order, but
correct. You're teaching attributes that can be applied in different directions. It's the same thing in boxing. I mean, there's 4 punches in boxing: a jab, a cross, a hook, and an uppercut. That's it. But what you do with them now becomes boxing. So if someone throws a jab and I slip off here and I throw an uppercut, that's an attribute that I've developed over practicing those punches.
Good. I know you like the story. I think I've told you I'm on that board for the Warrior for Life Fund. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm an ambassador for the Warrior for Life Fund down in Virginia Beach. And they're tied in with the Navy SEAL Foundation and everything. It's run by, I think he's retired now, a Navy SEAL, like 21-year Navy SEAL. So great cause. So we had a comedy night down at the Gotham Comedy Club in Manhattan on Wednesday night. Craig Carton, who's a radio personality here, great story. Well, kind of a good and bad story. Great guy, real good family guy. Had a gambling addiction and went to jail for 3 years. Has gone out of his way now to help others dealing with their issues, like talking publicly about what happened to him. Right. I guess he was abused when he was small. But him and I have become friends largely through Boomer Esiason. Boomer's a big Ranger fan, and we've done some events together. And so they did a comedy night on Wednesday night, raised about $10,000 to go to Warrior for Life Fund. He just because he knew me, he knew I was involved in the fund. He did that. And the other gentleman we need to thank too is Steve Mazzilli and his Mazzilli family who own the Gotham Comedy Club, another good Ranger fan. Steve's one of those guys that you talk to him. He's got like an encyclopedia about Ranger stuff. Like he tells stuff about when I played. I'm going, I don't remember that. I'm not doubting you. But, so it was a great night, a lot of fun. It's interesting, and I know you're the same way. It's going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn here, but it's really not. It's more to tell a story. Over the past few years and doing the True Grit Life stuff, we learn more about doing things for other people and how it makes you a stronger person. So I drove down the city on Wednesday night. Downpour started, pouring rain, and most people you see on the streets didn't have umbrellas, didn't expect the rain to happen. I happen to have an umbrella in my car, and I usually don't use it. But I thought, oh, geez, I've got I have a suit jacket on and everything, so I figured I'd go grab it. So I'm walking on, it's down on 26th, I think, I can't remember. But I'm walking on the street. This young girl, probably looks like 16, 17 years, had no jacket on. Sweet young, you could tell she's just dodging to get out of the water, out of the rain. So she gets underneath an awning, but she's got to go home. So I said, here, take my umbrella. I was right around the corner from the place. I said, take my umbrella. I didn't know who she was. She goes, oh no, that's very sweet of you, but I can't. You need to take the umbrella. So I don't know what it was when, obviously I hope I helped her, but I get more out of my, I feel better about myself so much when I do stuff like that. Right. It was amazing to feel that.
And that's the whole thing. And there's a saying, I don't know if I made it up or I heard it. It's not what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when people are not watching.
Totally.
I was in a grocery store a couple of weeks ago. I'm going down an aisle and I see an elderly woman. She, God bless her. She's probably past 80. And I stepped off to the side to let her through. And she looked at me like, because especially here where I live, people are very aggressive. Yeah. And so when I stepped aside to let her through, she looked at me and she said, where have you been my whole life? So of course, I said to her, waiting for you.
Oh, good.
That's good.
It makes you feel good, doesn't it? Yeah. I was in Costco one time. There's an older gentleman Same thing, looked like he was in the 80s or whatever. He obviously thought he was just going to run in and grab something. Didn't get a cart, so he was carrying a couple of items. You could tell he's struggling to carry them. I hit my cart. I said, "Well, do your stuff in my cart there. We'll go check out together." So we'd get in line together and chatting away about stuff. I can see he knows going to carry the stuff out to the car. So I said, "Hey, throw it in my cart. I'll take it to your car." And it wasn't a big deal. It's a nice day out or whatever. And we get chatting. He's a priest.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a good guy to be nice to, right? I mean,
sure.
you get God on your side.
You got a little coin in the bank now when you go up top.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
This is part. There's a flip side to this too. Is one of the many SEAL books I read was about negativity and stuff, and how to train yourself to be more positive. And one is like when you're online at the grocery store and you're third in line, and the person in front of you maybe had to go back to grab something they forgot. And instead of getting all enraged, like, what the, come on, man, just realize, hey, listen, it's okay.
I know. Isn't it true?
It's 30 seconds. And then in this particular chapter, talked about when you're in the rain, you're getting wet. Instead of freaking out, it's just water.
Yeah, it's true. Isn't it true?
Water.
Yeah. You take a shower every day. You just don't do it with your clothes on.
And this is a different thing, but I was watching this tactical thing on combat, and the guy said, "Isn't it amazing how you could be sitting in a restaurant and if somebody came up and threw water at you, you'd freak out like it's a flamethrower. It's just water." And I think many times, I know I do. I get caught up and just.
Yeah, but you're right. While you're doing that, you're right. And the thing to remember too is that you're not. Yeah, and the thing to remember too is, and you're not going to be perfect with it, because I feel so much better about stuff. But the other day, it's great you bring up the story. I'm going on 95 here where we are, and it's 287. It's always construction. And people have this habit, like people will line up, they're all being polite, they'll get in the right lane to go on 287 west. But somebody will always try to sneak in, and cut you off. So that was happening to me the other day, and I flipped out. I wouldn't let him in. My blood pressure took off and everything. And once I got it was over with, like 2 minutes there, I'm going, Tom, smart enough. What is the big deal? I should just let the person in. They were wrong doing it, but I should just let them in and get over. So, yeah, totally. This is kind of cool that we're talking about this now. This kind of segues into what we wanted to talk about today. And that is adding things to your life and subtracting things from your life to make your life better, to make you a better person, also a healthier person, quality of life, and all that goes along with it. So no, I agree 100%. Like when it comes to food, exercise, other people in your life, you think sometimes like some person that's like just a total negative person that's not bringing anything to your life. And then you think, why am I even? I don't have to be mean to them, but why am I including them in my life? Especially if you feel like I'm living a good, positive life, helping other people, doing things. Why are you going to?
That falls into we're all prejudiced. That means we prejudge, and I'm not talking about race. I'm just saying when we look at somebody, we tend to have, at least I know I do, I think it's a human instinct to prejudge a person and make a determination upon either their attire, the way they carry themselves, what they look like. And many times, or I shouldn't say many, just about all the time, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah, very true.
And so.
Yeah, I was on a train one time. The train was packed. Young man. So I think I was standing because the plane was crowded. There was a young guy sitting down, had the flat brim cap, looking like he's the bebop guy or gangbanger, whatever you want to call him. And this older lady gets on the next stop, and I must have been sitting down. I can't remember. Either way, it's more about him. And I'm looking at this guy. I'm thinking he's not going to get up. So he gets up, went out of his way, goes to the elderly lady. "Please, ma'am, take my seat." And he came and we stood together now with the door because we both either he'd given up a seat or I'd give my seat, both of them. And I said to him, "You know what? I got to be honest with you. Like I made a mistake about you. I was looking at you and I prejudged you and I thought you were some kind of a punk." Yeah, and that was one of the nicest things. That's one of the nicest things I've seen. And he's really, thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You acknowledged.
Yeah. But it is funny though too, right? I didn't know this kid, hadn't even talked to him, but all of a sudden I judged him already just based on the clothes he's wearing. So,
well, I'm sure it's occurred to you many times because you played. Well, how many guys have you played with? I mean, thousands probably. Right?
Yeah. And
then guys walk in the locker room and you prejudge them and go, guys this, guys that. Then turn out it's your best friend a year later.
Yeah. Well, who's the buddy of ours that we met at the swim? The smaller guy that's really good with the taekwondo or.
Royce.
Royce.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
if you look at Royce, you would think man, he's like 5 foot nothing, whatever. Couldn't handle himself at all. And then you watch him do that stuff with Kenny Big Day Jr. there, and the guy's a machine. And what a nice guy.
Yeah, when it comes to that, yeah. You see a guy and you prejudge him, and next thing you're in the hospital going, "How did I get here?" By ambulance.
All right, so that's it goes with people. Like, be careful not to prejudge. But again, don't feel like you have to be. If somebody's constantly taking something from you and not giving things to your life, and they're very negative and everything, you don't have to continue to have that person. You can sit down and have a conversation with them. You could say, "Listen, you're a dear friend of mine. I've known you for 40 years." But really, we got to make this more positive. Like, you're always talking negative stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think also this factors into the other topic we touched on about learning a skill. So sometimes we'll get a task put in front of us and we'll prejudge that task and say, there's no way I can do that. It's too difficult. And then you do it and you go, well, wasn't that hard?
Yeah.
It wasn't that difficult.
Right.
And
it's true.
We can so fall into that category as well. So some of the things I outlined in terms of adding to your life to improve the quality of your life is the first one's meditation. And I know you do it in your morning march. I know I like to try to get it in every morning, even if it's like 2 minutes. Just kind of ground yourself, think about, how great. Like for me yesterday, I don't know why it struck me, but I had a sudden rush of gratitude when I started to think about how lucky I've been throughout my life. Just many times being in the right place, right time, having great parents, great family, great friends, and sometimes that's another form of I guess a sense of meditation when you just get that gratitude of, I'm a really lucky guy and I need to pay this forward. I need to try to do something with my fortunate circumstance, especially in today's world. So all you gotta do is turn on the news and you see everybody struggling and suffering overseas and here and everything like that. And I think it's a good time to say, you know what, pretty grateful for what I have. The second thing I always like to think about is our brain is a muscle. So we need to exercise the brain. It's another thing we want to add into, whether it's reading a book, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's playing a mathematical game. My father was sharp as a tack the day he passed, and he was still doing that Sudoku, that game. And I would play it, but my dad actually abused me mathematically when I was a child. He said we have 11.
Hold on. He abused me mathematically.
Yeah. And it really set a bad course for me in school. He said, we have 11 fingers. I said, no, Dad, we have 10. He goes, no, we have 11. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5 is 11. Anyhow, so he played these mathematical games, and I swear it really helped him stay sharp right to the bitter end. And again, whether it's a word jumble or just something like that, it's really important to exercise our brain. And I think what happens many times, people retire from their job and they just get sedentary and they don't continue to work your brain. And I think that's a big part of the dementia and Alzheimer's. I don't think it's medically induced, but it certainly contributes to it.
I agree 100% on that. Yeah, totally.
Learning new motor skills is great too, because look, I don't know if you saw a video I put up yesterday. Again, I was boxing on that balance beam. Why? It adds a level of difficulty, right? And it's especially as we age, our balance does tend to get away from us, and that's why I'll even have athletes do things on one leg, weightlifting on one leg, because you got to keep your core tight. You're synergistic and stabilizing muscle groups. So there's ways you can challenge that whole motor skill. One of the things too, Beth and I were talking about last night, actually, over the great dinner that I cooked. It was fabulous.
What'd you cook?
I forget who we called for delivery. But anyhow, so like I played piano when I was a kid, and I really think that helped me in boxing, because you got left hands doing one thing and your right hand's doing something else. Yeah. And I think it's really, really a good way to increase your athleticism, as I can't think of too many sports that you're not using both hands. Yeah. There are some, I can't come to them, but you do. Even if it's a single limb sport with tennis, you still have that free hand kind of helping control your movement. So that's another thing.
Who's that calling? Is that Beth? Beth calling?
No, it was actually my parole officer. I forgot to call in this morning.
Stop. That's terrible. That is terrible. But don't know why I thought it when you talked about your father with the 11 fingers. So I don't know why it's popped in my head, but I've always meant to talk about this more. You know, the old saying is you just have to get up as many times or more times than you fall down. Correct. People say it like that. Yeah. It's not actually accurate, right? So if you figure when you're standing up and you fall down, so you've fallen down once,
right?
All you have to do is get up once to be standing up. So you just have to get up as many times as you fall down.
Correct.
Is the actual truth. So we need to adjust that saying. I don't know why that's come to my mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of sayings out there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, again, not to get too silly with this, but we park in a driveway when we drive on the parkway. So
I researched that. Yeah, there is actually a reason. So a parkway used to be a road that went through a park.
Oh, okay.
So the Henry Hudson Parkway, that used to be all parkland up there. So it's always park. So that's why it's parkway. A driveway refers to on the farm. They used to have a road that went by the barn. So you drove, right. And then people started to park on that. It was on the farm. And that was the driveway.
Okay.
So there's actually a reason why.
Yeah, no, I learned something. That's been one of my mysteries throughout my whole life.
I guess I've had too much time on my hands, obviously, right? I mean,
yeah. You know, I just took a sip of water, hydration. Most people are dehydrated. It's wherever I go, I have water.
Let me ask you, okay, maybe you're going to touch on this. Maybe I'm jumping ahead. Diet.
Mm-hmm.
So even if somebody is slim or looks like they're in shape, if they're eating bad food, it still does bad things to your body.
Sure. Yeah, it's on what you can't see. It's on the inside. It may be like a used car you buy. It looks all right from the outside, and the inside's totally rusted out. And that was my next thing when we talk about nutrition. You know, most people, and I'm making a gross generalization, but most people are not understanding of what proper nutrition actually is.
Exactly.
So they maybe have the effort and the desire to eat properly, but they don't have the education behind it. And it's unfortunate because there's so many different, you have high fat, low carb diets, and you have high carb diets, you have protein diets. I think common sense will tell you it's a little bit of everything.
I agree. Totally healthy
diet. I also think that it factors into your genetics, factors into your lifestyle, how active you are. And, you know, you got to look at your body like a car. If you're a Ferrari, you got to use some really clean, powerful fuel.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know what else too? We're always learning things too. Scientists are always learning new things about the universe, about the earth itself, about our diets. So, because people will say, well, before they used to tell us that we should eat all the time to keep the metabolism going. Now we're learning about, you have taught me more about about fasting and how it's actually healthier for your body to not be constantly eating all the time. Right. So people say, well, they used to say something different. Well, yeah. And now we've studied more. We have more science that tells us that fasting is better for us. So
doctors used to do commercials for cigarettes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I probably should have mentioned this at the very onset of what to add, because this is going to make Brendan Duffy very happy, and rightly so, is sleep.
Oh, yes. Brendan Duffy.
Most of us are not even close to the amount of time we're supposed to be sleeping.
Right.
I think 7 hours is a good starting point. Brendan would probably correct me or not. But very few of us, or at least a lot of us, don't come close to that 7 hour point.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, and this is probably an easy one to figure, but sex, having an active sex life and a healthy sex life is important because you release a lot of endorphins. And
you're a terrible man. Are you telling the truth?
No, yeah. It's
okay.
very important. Yeah.
I think it is too, but I just didn't.
You know, even if it's table for one, it's okay. No, because for a male, it's very it's important for your prostate. So even if it's table for one, it's considered okay. Yeah,
that is true. When you think about that, it does make you feel better. So sure.
It's a very important part of your life. It's a very important part of your happiness and your feeling,
your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, like I said, table for one sometimes. Yoga is another thing you might want to add to your life because it feeds into the meditation. It's obviously great for your body. I know I should probably do more of it and get more adept at it because of all the injuries and wear and tear over the years. Supplements, as long as you're using a reputable manufacturer, which is difficult to find.
Yeah, true, Barry. This is all information. You get it all right here.
Yeah, we got it all here, Barry. Whatever you need. All right.
How about a good bowel movement?
Do you know Dr. Ruth was engaged at one time to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
I do remember that.
Yeah, he was nuts over her, man. He was just anyway.
How about a good bowel movement? That's got to be pretty important for your life too.
Absolutely. Well, that's part of the whole nutrition, right? It's incredibly important. Incredibly important to have a healthy digestive system and an elimination. Incredibly important. Many people walk around and like just garbage inside that they should get rid of. The supplements, obviously right now vitamin D is really important because it keeps your immune system high, and we need that with COVID and everything else in the flu season coming. Vitamin D is important, vitamin C, B12, and then anything else that your body, again, it's particular to what your lifestyle is, but like for weightlifters, protein, for athletes.
One of the best things I heard you say there was the education part. I agree with everything you're saying, the education part, because for me personally, that's exactly the truth. The more I have learned about what foods do to my body, good and bad ways, the more I've just trained myself now to just putting probably 95% of the time what I'm putting in my body is for a purpose, right? It's ginger and turmeric for your immune system, for your anti-inflammatory and all that stuff. So I agree.
Well, it's been a while, but Bruce Driver had his nose done because he had it busted up playing. And the doctor gave him an anti-inflammatory diet for a month leading up to the surgery. And he did say, Bruce told me, he goes, a heck of a lot less swelling and inflammation than I ever imagined from the surgery. Because you usually get black eyes and really banged up look.
That's a pretty good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Huh. And then something else we should all add, and I know I get caught up in it's just some chill time. Just relax.
Yeah.
Sit down and watch a good movie or just read a good book. But we
and turn the TV off too.
Turn that thing off.
Yeah.
And get away from your electronics.
Yeah, that's the tough part. I find myself the other day, I can't go in the bathroom now without taking my phone with me. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I do the same thing. Wipe with it once, you'll never do it again. But anyway.
You're butter today. You know that? You're butter.
I'm fired up.
You know why you're butter?
Why's that?
You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. Yeah.
You're on a roll.
51 more cards. We got a deck. Yeah. Pets are cool because they really give you a lot of sense of enjoyment, and they love you just because you're there.
Okay, so let me ask you a question then. I love dogs, right? Grew up on a farm, always had dogs. I don't have a dog currently because I've been around. So now I live in a condominium complex. And most people are very respectful, nice people, but there's a lot of dogs in the complex. And I don't know what it is lately, but it seems like the dogs all want to bark repeatedly in the afternoon. And in most cases, the people are trying their best to keep the dogs quiet, but their dogs are going to bark, especially when other dogs are barking. There's some people, though, that kind of don't do anything to get their dogs to stop. So now, Dr. or Coach Putnick, should I let that bother me, or I should just, when they're barking, I should just say, you know what, it's dogs barking. What's your?
I guess for your personal health, ignore it. Find a way to ignore it. Put on some music so you can't hear it, because it's not going to go away. So why torture yourself after something that you can't control?
So I suggested I could call the town. There's noise ordinance, but they're still dogs. They're just going to bark.
Yeah. And in today's world, the cops are going to go, yeah, that's nice. Hang the phone up. Too much going on to worry about that. So
I felt I would really help the situation. But I had a couple of cocktails the other night, and I started barking myself.
That works as well. Yeah.
Well, it didn't really work. It made me feel pretty good at the time.
Yeah, it's very cathartic.
Yeah, it did. But then when I got up in the morning and went outside and realized, oh God.
Yeah, you didn't start chasing it. You didn't chase the garbage truck the next morning, did you?
I started chasing my own tail, running around in a circle.
So the pets are great. And then maintain your health checks. Make sure you get your yearly physical, and monitor your blood pressure if it's an issue. You can go to CVS and you can monitor your blood pressure numerous times a day. And then the last thing is just have some fun, man. Don't find time to have fun. Yeah.
Isn't that true?
Because we're all going to be in the dirt quicker than you think, and have some fun along the way. It's the old say, smell of roses.
Yeah. And the one I'd add too is treat other people the right way.
Sure.
Start we joked around with stuff but helping other people. And honestly, we're the same way, helping somebody, small little thing like giving an umbrella, opening the door, getting out of an elderly lady's way. You just feel so much better about yourself, right? You feel like you just get stronger. You and I
were, involved and helped with the SEAL swim last month or 2 months ago. And there's a woman, Rhonda. I'm probably going to say her last name. I think it's Viteri. She had sent me numerous messages to me and you and all the guys that helped.
Yeah.
The amount of gratitude and incredible work we did. My reply to her was our honor and our pleasure. We're honored to do it.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny. So I Googled her, and it turns out she's an incredibly successful
She's
woman.
from Greenwich. She's from the town I'm in.
Yeah.
Greenwich.
She's an incredibly successful woman.
Yeah.
Does mentorship programs. She runs over in Kenya with very young ladies. They do this run through the desert. She's just an amazing person.
Yeah.
And for her to go out of her way to thank us for, we helped, but it wasn't like rocket science. We're just there to, they needed some good looking dudes up on top of the barge. And
exactly. Really eye candy.
Yeah. But so it's gratifying to hear from such a woman who's so accomplished. And yet when I think about it, what is she doing? She's showing her gratitude, and she's centered on herself and saying, I'm this amazing person, but I need to acknowledge my gratitude.
It's probably one of the reasons she's so successful is that
exactly because it's not about her; it's about other people.
The same thing when we were at that comedy night the other night, and this Craig Carton introduced me and said how much I was doing for the military and everything. I was leaving, and one security guard, big guy, grabs my hand, pulls me in real close. He says, "Thank you for doing so much for the military." Yeah. And I got the sense, I said, are you a veteran yourself? And he was, I think he was Army or maybe Marine, I can't remember. And he wouldn't let my hand go. He wanted to make totally sure how much he was appreciating what I was doing for the military. And I said, hey, listen, it's just like as an honor, all that kind of stuff. He says, no, I'm serious. Thank you for everything you do. And it was like, you could tell it really meant a lot to him that I was doing, but he wanted to make sure that I knew how much he appreciated it too. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Ever tell you the story? We had this like little mini, heck did they call it? Prospect camp. Mm-hmm. This was before they started sending the guys up to Traverse City, right? Sure. So the prospect camp, all the kids came in. Anybody that was a draft pick, whether they were signed or not. Right. So the PR staff one night sent, after we get done, over to Rodney Dangerfield. So we had like 30 guys sitting off on the side. So it was me and Mike and Buzzy. So we're sitting there, and I got all these young kids with me. And I didn't know, but I wasn't thinking, but they knew who we were and why we were there. So they had an MC introducing the acts, and there was Bill Burr, who, by the way, he took
buddy of mine.
Get out.
Yeah, he did a thing at the Garden of Laughs, because they got the Garden of Dreams. She put a comedy show on, raise money. So as a gift, they gave him an hour of a couple hours of ice at Madison Square Garden.
Is that right?
So they brought myself and Brian Mullen in to play with him and his buddies.
Yeah,
and he would love talking to me because I played with Jay Miller in LA. Jay Miller is a Boston guy. Bill Burr's a Boston guy, so he loves Jay Miller. So I actually hooked him up as friends. So we hit it off right away. We were having fun.
Kidding.
We go on the ice to play, and he's not a very good skater, and everybody's kind of stayed away from him because he's a star out there. I ran him, knocked him on his ass, and he loved it. He's looking at everybody else like, "What are you doing?" But I played with other guys like that before, and they want to feel like they're part of it, like they're part of one of the boys, right? And so he's down there, he's got the mask on, he's a big smile. And so when he comes to town, he calls me. I go backstage with him now too.
No kid, he's incredibly talented.
Funny.
Well, funny. I didn't know who he was. He comes on, Tom. It got to a point where my abs were like, from laughing so hard, I was begging him to stop. Stop your act. Yeah. So they had an MC, female MC, and she would introduce the act, tell a couple jokes. She pulls up one of our guys, Matt Kinch. I'll never forget this kid's name, Matt Kinch, for two reasons. One, he had a blue eye and a brown eye. Never seen anything like it.
Oh.
Yeah, and he played in Hartford. He never made it to the show, but he played I think Swift Current in the dub. Really nice kid. Well, she brings this poor kid up on stage, and he was a farm boy, very polite kid, and what she did to him was almost criminal. We were all in tears laughing. But this poor kid, I felt so bad for him. And but that was Rodney Dangerfield.
That's funny.
So let's talk about some of the things we want to subtract from our life. And the first one, obviously, is stress. Stress causes all kinds of disease. It'll ruin your life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's stressful events we cannot remove, but there are stress factors that we can remove. And one of them would be the dogs barking. Learn to deal with it. Learn to put on music. Don't just sit in your house and get all jacked up over it. We have a road in front of our house here that people speed. I used to go running out there like a cop, and then I realized I'm going to get run over. Or, they're not going to listen to me. So now I just let it go because there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
So letting it eat me up every time a car goes sailing by. Again, this should have probably been the first one, Mr. Duffy, but poor sleep. We have to try to eliminate that. Make sure you have a dark room. Make sure you have a routine. Make sure you go to bed approximately the same time every night. Have a ritual before you go to bed that keep the same, right? Try not to have any electronics on for a minimum 30 minutes before you go to sleep. No television, no phone, because that blue light really jacks you up. Want to eliminate poor nutrition, obviously. Want to eliminate. Here's a big one, and I've been guilty of it. I'm sure you have to. Is eliminating toxic relationships with people.
Yeah,
they're draining.
Yeah.
They're really.
Yeah, you can't change people, right? They are who they are.
No.
And
And if you're in a bad personal relationship, do what you have to do to get out of it, because it's not gonna get better. Eliminate anger. We were just talking about getting jacked up being online, and said, listen. So the lady had to go get a gallon of milk and come back. 30 seconds, big deal. It's raining out. It's just water. Remove that anger. Something I've really had to work on, because I didn't even have a short fuse. I had no fuse, and over a period of time, I've tried to eliminate that. Here's a big one, and it's called cognitive distortions. And you can go online, and there's, I think, 9 of them, and read through them. You'll probably find one that you're guilty. In my case, I found like 5. Mm-hmm. One of them would be catastrophic thinking. So when my younger guy, Ty, was 20, he moved out to Los Angeles because he's an actor. So I'm over here 3,000 miles away. When I would call him and he didn't answer the phone, my mind immediately went to in a ditch.
Yeah.
When he didn't have his phone on.
Yeah.
Or I forgot the time change. That's catastrophic thinking. So I was guilty of that. And I have to really pull back on the reins a lot of times when I start to think that way.
One sec, Mark.
Yeah, I hear him. Actually, it's just part of the show now.
It doesn't bother me. I'm fine. Yeah. It's soothing. It's like an ocean wave or something like that. That's
engulfing your body with calmness.
Yeah.
Unneeded medications. So what is an unneeded medication? In my view, you're a 30-year-old male, you're 20 pounds overweight, and you're already on high blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
Lose the weight, you don't need that medication.
Definitely.
Smoking, obviously, I don't even have to tell you why. We need to eliminate that. Addictive behaviors, all right? They come in many, many forms.
Yeah.
They don't have to be illegal. They don't have to be interpersonal addictions. They could be an addiction to one particular food or, the electronics, those type of things you want to try to remove from your body, from your life. And then you want to limit your alcohol consumption. You want to limit social media, and you want to limit isolation. And under COVID, we all suffered from isolation. At first, it was unique, and then it got to be, you know what? I want to go just even be with strangers. I mean, I need to be around. We're humans. We need to interact with other human beings. So those are some of the things that we want to try to limit. And I think if we kind of get through all that and pick a few and eliminate them, there's the dogs. I think that you went over and said, listen, at about 12:10, do me a favor. Get the dog to bark.
Get your dog barking.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's funny. So it's funny how I asked you your opinion how I should handle it. On the Thursday show with Larry Melnick, James Patrick, and Ron Gresham, I asked them. They were like, go shoot the dog. No, they didn't say that. But,
yeah, they did.
Yeah. That's funny stuff. Funny. I like this topic a lot. We should talk about this. We carry this over to the next show. More talking about what we have in and out of our lives.
And do a deeper dive into some of the topics.
Right. And I do think part of it is too, is just like actually taking the steps to do it. Like you may know, okay, I shouldn't be hanging around this person, but you know what? Or you may have the conversation with them too, like say, listen, we need to change the way we look at our lives, right? More positive and stuff. So.
And again, a little bit of this too, Tom, is no one's going to see it but you. So what I mean by that is having that ritual of, getting ready to go to sleep, having that morning meditation.
Right.
And, no one's going to come up to you and say, hey, I heard about your meditation. No,
Yeah.
it's what
It's like
you do
making your
when
bed,
no one's
making your
watching.
bed first, like get in the habit of doing that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, when
I
no
agree.
one's watching.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Great job. I like this. We're going to talk about this again next week too. We'll talk about this and more stuff, but super stuff. I feel so much better about. Actually, I'm going to go out and
Feed the dogs. Bring some treats over.
Yeah, I'll throw some stuff for him. Hey, listen, you want me to walk your dog for you? I mean, once it starts working, I'll offer to walk. Okay. All right, bud. See you next week.
Right, man. Have a good one, guys.